Before the transfer portal and NIL era, true freshmen coming in to compete for PT after a 3-win season would seem pretty likely. But after you bring in all new coaches who have then brought in all new transfers, it would take a royal entrance for any freshman to now crack the 3 deep.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stillwater. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at Alldeo State. Today, we're brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more, especially right now, when new customers can get $150 back in bonus bets when your first $5 hauler is a winner. Get squared away at FanDuel.com today. Meanwhile, we shift into the foosball conversation once again, and we're going to kind of stick into the speed variety. Yesterday, we broke down some of the speed differences between Haas Haney and Des Bryant and Paris Cox, and obviously the flag football MVP, Daniel Berry, and how it would correlate to some of the newer guys like Jalen Lloyd being on that list, J.K. Johnson being on that list, but we strategically left off some of the freshmen. Matrell Lopez would definitely fit that mold, coming in with a 10.7 100-meter time from Idabel, Oklahoma. And then you also have Kobe Foreman, who came a little bit early in the spring. He has a 10.78 time. And then you also have to take into consideration that Royal Capell, who has been here all spring, comes in with a sub 10.9 100-meter time as well. And why I think this is important is because it's going to be extremely difficult to make the rotational 3 deep essentially as a true freshman on this squad. Naturally, you would like to have most of your freshmen get that 4-game window that they're allowed to play, that it's not counted against them. Primarily, that's going to be in special teams. And Royal Capell, no doubt, is going to factor into the special teams equation no matter what. When you look at some of the clips and some of the conversations coming out of spring, Royal Capell was playing wide receiver. He was a holder. He was a return man. He was doing reverses. He was definitely a gadget guy that's in the same vein as Sam Jackson V coming over from Auburn. But the difference here is his ability to see things at an enhanced level because of the recruiting acumen and the servicing that he's been getting throughout the course of high school. Thanks to his dad, who runs a recruiting service, he's been able to navigate all of this process pretty seamlessly, and naturally going in to compete as a spring candidate was going to be massive for his potential and his capabilities as playing as a freshman. I don't think very many freshmen are going to play this year just because of when you bring on essentially 40 transfers. I know a couple have gone and a couple have came since then, but by and large, it's going to rotate between 36, 42-ish on the transfer line. Then you have some of the guys that are, in fact, coming back from this previous season, like a Zane Flores, like a Cam Smith, like a Cam Epps. These are individuals that you also have to take into consideration. How are we going to squeeze into playing time? And I think slot receiver is pretty loaded down. When you consider that you got Gavin Freeman and you got DeJuan Lofton, I think those two individuals alone garner a lot of positivity. Then you factor in Sam Jackson V. Could a Royal Capell kind of squeeze in as that number 4 slot receiver? I think he very well could already be there. I think there's a high probability that we see number 11 doing a significant number of things. Now, I would also put Matrell Lopez in this potential classification if he would have been able to show up in the spring. So the guys who showed up in the spring are going to have a little bit of a more of an understanding when it comes to the playbook and things of that nature. And unfortunately, the only guys who showed up in the spring from a freshman perspective were Kobe Foreman, of course, and Royal Capell. I think that both of those individuals are going to factor into this equation. But then you also had Cam Powell, a wide receiver, 6 foot, 205 pounds, from McKinney, Texas. So you have a Royal from Seville Steel, you have Kobe Foreman from Dallas, Texas, and you have Cam Powell from McKinney, Texas. That's 2 wide receivers, a corner, and then we also had a long snapper from Owasso, a Jackson Duffield kind of fill in here as well. So those are the freshmen that are on the current roster that were competing in spring, and I think that is going to go a long way because of the nuances within the playbook, both offensively and defensively. We know they're significantly bigger. There's a lot to them. There's a lot of checks. There's a lot of calls. There's a lot of audibles, a lot of shifts, a lot of last-minute pre-snap and post-snap stuff. it's going to take some time to diagnose that, to have a understanding of it. But clearly, these individuals have shown up early to be participants in what the freshman class might end up looking like. Now, again, some of the guys like Jalen Beckley, they've just recently arrived on campus, so they're getting used to their surroundings. They're getting used to the class schedules or the football schedules, the workouts, the nutrition. There's a lot that goes into it on top of the playbook. That is why the spring entries are going to have a massive leg up when it comes to any freshman seeing legitimate time on the field. I think that Royal Capell is going to be the most likely candidate out of all of these to play more than that 4 games, right? So Royal Capell might factor into not only slot receiver, he could be in the return game, he could be a gadget guy, he could be in special teams. I would anticipate that the versatility that Royal Capell provides with that speed is going to be something that we do see on Saturdays in Stillwater and on the road this season. I think Royal Capell is one of the few freshmen that are going to have an opportunity to see significant minutes. So I think we all need to get used to seeing number 11 on the field. Someone like Jalen Beckley, Matrell Lopez would have shown up earlier. Maybe this is a conversational piece. Carl Vion Young is another individual from a talent perspective that definitely will be able to get it done, but we're going to be absolutely stacked at the linebacker spot. So I think he's going to probably look at a freshman year. Michael Riles, one of the highest rated defensive linemen or defensive ends that we had coming in this previous class. He's got the ability to play. And because we don't know exactly what the defensive line is going to look like, perhaps he could be in this potential equation as well. Kobe Foreman, another sub 11 second 100-meter dude that's coming over to help the defensive side of the ball. I think most of us could agree that the defensive side of the ball is where we need the most amount of help, especially at the DB spot, right? You got Cordy Black gone. You do have Cam Smith with the ability to potentially take that next step up. You have Jalen Davies coming over from UCLA. You have J.K. Johnson coming over from LSU, previously of Ohio State. These individuals are likely going to be able to show the ropes to the younger dudes from multiple angles because they've been at multiple schools. They've likely seen multiple systems. So I do think the guys that showed up in the spring early are going to have much more advanced understanding of what the playbook looks like and how they can factor into it. And I tell you, from a wide receiver perspective, when I went to college, I did not respect the exact routes, right? To me, it didn't matter if I cut the route off a half yard too short or I kind of rounded it. I was just going to 50-50 ball it anyways. But that was kind of selfish. It took me until college before I realized that the spacing on the routes is what equals the success of the play. Because if your spacing is wrong, you're allowing a defender in an area that he's supposed to be cleared out of. These are the little minute details that come into not only playing the position, but learning the applicable portions of the playbook for you. Royal Capell seems to be that dude. We've seen clips of him doing a little bit of everything all over the field in the spring, as long as he maintains his health and he's good to go in the weight room, good to go in nutrition, good to go in the classroom. I fully anticipate with all of the services that his dad and that company have provided him, he understands the lay of the land. He understands how to navigate the playbook and find portions where he can excel. So we have a significant number of freshmen that have come in, but I do think that it's only going to be a couple that are going to have any opportunity to get a significant amount of playing time. Those are the dudes that I anticipate. But we also have coming in that came in later with Jalen Beckley is Dewan, a.k.a. DJ Duggar, the 6'1", 205-pound running back out of Linder, Texas. He just joined the fold recently, so that'll be good. After a 1,500-yard season on almost 200 carries, he has 3,824 yards total. That's absolutely insane. Then you also have to take into consideration that you got Jaden Perez, another wide receiver, 6 foot, 175 pounds from San Antonio coming in, who's got some track abilities, 44.6-inch triple jump, 19.4-inch long jump. This previous season, he had 33 receptions for 465 yards at 14.1 yards per clip after a 577-yard season previously. We just mentioned Cam Powell. Cam Powell did show up early. And he's a bigger dude, 6'1", 200 pounds. He's stout. He's strong, kind of like James Washington. He's almost like a running back that can get out in the open field and be an absolute problem. Who also has a 110-meter hurdle track time, with 14.68 seconds, which is pretty daggone impressive. Then you have Jordan Viborni, the 6'5", 231-pound tight end. Realistically, let's call a spade. We got kind of lucky here. We got in good on the recruiting, and then as his recruitment was heating up, he had a massive injury, and that really caused some teams to back off of him. Thankfully, Oklahoma State did not. We stayed true to our word. We kept his scholarship intact. He is a quintessential wide receiver level tight end. He didn't really get involved in the run game a whole lot, which you don't necessarily need to whenever you're that good at getting open and you have that good of hands. Benny Tonga, that's all he needed to make this thing happen. And it was a very, very big get. We mentioned Jalen Beckley, another friend of the show who does his own little deal on YouTube. Make sure that you go subscribe to what he's doing. He gives you a little behind the scenes to some of the players and moving into the dorms and things of that nature. I think it's absolutely phenomenal. U.S. Army All-American that was downgraded from a 4-star after he committed to Oklahoma State. If he would have showed up early, he could probably factor into this. Then you have a local from Muskogee, Oklahoma, 6'4", 300-pound Miguel Chavez. Miguel Chavez is a big addition. He was a late addition that was previously committed for quite some time. I think that this 6'4", 300-pound frame is going to be something that we're able to utilize fairly quickly because he was absolutely dominant at Muskogee High School. Then you have Simona Fulielatello. No, I just murdered that name, but this is likely another one of those Benny Tonga gets out of the Utah area at 6'6", 302 pounds. He's an offensive tackle that's extremely athletic that could end up playing guard at some point in time in his career at Oklahoma State. But regardless, that's phenomenal size from a phenomenal area. Speaking of phenomenal size from a phenomenal area, Riker Half, 6'6", 305-pound offensive lineman from Owasso, Oklahoma, home of Carter Langendorfer, and obviously home of Taj Overton, that are all Cowboys. If we can build this Owasso, Bixby, Union, BA, Jinx pipeline, I'm absolutely all about it. And Isaiah Kima. Isaiah Kima was part of the class a couple of years ago, but did the 2-year mission. He is back. He's on campus, 6'4", 295 pounds. This is going to take a little bit of time. Like I had a conversation with Jake Hatch over at BYU, and I straight up asked him, how long does it take these guys to come back from mission and be game ready, or are they in such good shape that they show up game ready? He said typically it takes them about a year back into the tried and true football system before they're legitimately ready to rock and roll. So I'm excited about Michael Riles. I'm excited about Carl Leon Young. I'm very excited about Kobe Foreman. I think Drayden Fulbright is another sneaky individual here who has a sub 11 or right above 11, 11.18. 11.18 100-meter time, 5'11", 180-pound corner, very good cover skills that I think he's going to progress, especially whenever he gets under that Rob Glass system that has been instrumental. You have Aiden Webb, 6'2", 180-pound DB, coming over from the Dallas, Utah, Lake Highlands area. Or Texas, not Utah. Get out of here, Cody. Anywho, I think that this is another individual that could be, 6'2", 205 pounds very quickly after some work with Rob Glass. And that's where I'll leave this thing lastly. All of these dudes that are already 10.7, 10.8, 10.6, 10.4, 100-meter times, that's without Rob Glass. And one of the best moments I have from Jalen Warren when he came back to Stillwater and why he comes back to Stillwater in an interview, he said, the reason I was rotating between a second and third stringer at Utah State and went to Oklahoma State and catapulted myself into the starting running back as a Pittsburgh Steeler was because of Rob Glass. He was rotating between number 2 and number 3 at Utah State because he wasn't fast enough. He wasn't fast enough to win the job at Utah State. Comes to Oklahoma State. A month and a half, 2 months later, he's the fastest running back on the roster, which is saying something because he was next to LD Brown, and obviously his career has gone pretty remarkable since then. So if you're coming into Oklahoma State and you're already a sub-11 second dude, if you have a couple months with Rob Glass, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to cut that down even more. When you have track speed on the football field that can also bang, and you can bring that football intensity, when you can combine those two, It's a pretty lethal product, and it seemingly appears that Oklahoma State has a lot of that. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know what it is. It is FanDuel, the best in the biz for you to capitalize this summer because the summer sports are in full swing. Whether you're all about getting the action on the diamond, looking at no-nos and perfect games and long bombs, or if you like to chip in for birdies or bang it off the tee for a long shot on a par 5 or high-stakes soccer, doesn't matter. FanDuel is the best way for you to get in on the action and make the action more exciting. Why not make it as thrilling as possible? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are out there doing ridiculousness, getting sunburned, whatever the case may be. Super easy to use, fast, easy payouts that make even regular season games feel more like must-watch events. Whether you're going to place a same-game parlay or watch the bet ride into the 9th inning, FanDuel is going to make you feel like you're more part of the action when the investment is higher. You can have that investment right now with FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better because new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 back in bonus bets if your first $5 bet is a win. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started. This is your opportunity to capitalize on the monetary gains department this summer and this upcoming football season. All right, now we get to shift gears here to the offensive line, which was pretty abysmal this previous season. You know, I see in the comments on X or whatever, there seems to be a contingent of people that still don't like it when people talk down about Alan Bowman or they talk bad about this offensive line. I don't get it. I don't understand why calling a spade is viewed negatively. 2023 offensive line, they were okay, but from a PFF standpoint, a lot of the grades were still in the 54, 55, 56, 58 range. Not very good. This previous season, they were even worse than 2023. Obviously, we saw that result of Ollie Gordon getting hit in the backfield almost 52% of the time, but it was the same offensive line. So it's not like we just regressed tremendously in talent. There's no way that the same 2023 O-line showed up in 2024. They just didn't. They didn't show up. So call it what you want to call it. They just were not very good, and it's 100% on them because you can't teach effort, right? And that's essentially what it boiled down to. So likely this new offensive line is going to be better just from an effort standpoint. But I think it goes beyond that. I think that this offensive line is going to be significantly better for a multitude of reasons. One of those being that you're not going to have any complacency. I think that you can narrow down what happened this previous season primarily to that. Complacency, which equals laziness, blah, 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 blah. But we're able to bring in a bunch of dudes. So let's go over some of the guys and why this should be a significantly better upgrade. So you bring in Tyler Brumfield. 6'6", 315-pound redshirt junior from Snow College. Snow College is very, very good at production, especially when it comes to offensive and defensive linemen. Feel pretty good about that one. You have Louis Canepa coming over from New Mexico State alongside his coach, Andrew Mitchell. But if he's 100% healthy by the beginning of the season, no-brainer. He's going to be a starter, a very good welcome addition to this lineup. Then you have Kason Carpenter coming over from Tulsa, 6'3", 305-pound Allen, Texas native. Started multiple seasons and multiple games at Tulsa as the center. We played him, and we watched him take on Justin Kirkland and Mont Oates and Colin Clay, and it was pretty productive. I think in the last 2 years, he's only given up, was it 6 sacks, 5 sacks, something to that effect. So I feel like this is a very good addition. Davis Dotson, the 6'6", 305-pound Berry Hill, Oklahoma junior, has the size, has the strength, has the ability. We just need to see it take shape. Caleb Hackelman, freshman this previous season, went through the weight program, went through the training program, understands a little bit more of what he's trying to accomplish. At 6'6", 295 pounds, should be a good opportunity for him to start climbing up the depth chart. Jared Henry, another one of these 6'5", 320-pound Trinity Valley Community College additions this previous season. So he's been in the system a little bit. He understands what to do. Then you have Austin Kolecki. Played some center, played some guard, played some tackle. Basically, he's the Swiss Army knife of the bunch, but ironically enough, when he was playing center a couple years ago, he was like 6'4", 275-ish, 280-ish. It didn't make a lot of sense. Well, now he's up to 300 pounds. The Frisco native, it has the most snaps on the roster for returning Cowboys by far. He should be a very good leadership piece and the dude that kind of anchors that offensive line all across the board. We already talked about Nuku Mafi after his his mission. He showed up at 6'4", 325 pounds. So don't know how his mission went, but we do know that he gained almost 30 pounds on the mission. Then you have Noah McKinney. We've talked about him several times, transferred from UNLV, should have played a lot more last year, battled some injuries there towards the end. Hopefully he's 100% rocking to roll coming into this season. If so, at 6'4", 320, feel pretty good about it. Jameson from Broken Arrow. His last name, probably, I'm not going to do it right, so I'm not going to murder it. 6'4", 300 pounds. Then you have Jacoby Sanders. 6'2", 315, Stillwater, Oklahoma. He was the dude that had to do individual drills with Justin Kirkland just because Justin had a tendency in one-on-one drills to throw some dudes around. He could not throw around Jacob Sanders. Jacoby Sanders, I think that's going to be a very good addition. Gage Staniland, very good family that makes sure his head is on straight. When it comes to understanding what to do from a technical aspect, I think Gage Staniland might be the guy who absorbs the most information, makes it transferable to the field the quickest. Then you have Lavaca coming over from Weber State, 6'2", 330 pounds. It's been up and down. There's been rumors that he's transferred, then there's been rumors that he's back. I don't know what the situation is with him specifically, so I don't know. Then you have Matthew Wade, 6'4", 230-pounder from Edmond, Deer Creek, Oklahoma. Redshirt freshman, might be able to stick around, might not. So that is the roster spots that were on the roster after spring. Now it's the fun part. The guys that we brought in after all of the craziness might be the biggest additions, starting with Bob Schick, 6'6", 305-pound lineman who spent 4 seasons at Virginia Tech. He started the last 2 seasons for the Hokies. Pro Football Focus has his last 502 snaps. He gave up no sacks and 1 quarterback hit. He played guard primarily in 2024, and PFF once again, out of 713 snaps, he only allowed 1 sack. This is a dude who I think fits in seamlessly. And I think he jumps into a starting role almost seamlessly as well. Bob Schick, massive addition. Great job by this O-line crew getting this done. Another massive addition that was sought after by several ACC and SEC level schools from Appalachian State, Markel Samuel. Markel, interestingly, he was a defensive end, then he was a tight end, then he was an offensive lineman, all at Appalachian State. So he went there as linebacker. He went as a linebacker, then went to defensive end, then he goes to offensive lineman. So I think out of the last 820 snaps, PFF said he allowed 5 sacks. And once again, this is not natural for him. This has been a transitional period for him. Now, he has been playing offensive line for a couple years now. I think that's going to be instrumental to his development here. But, he's played tackle. He's played both guard spots. I think that he could slide in pretty seamlessly here at either one of those. And then I think the funnest ribbon of all of them is the Nebraska transfer, Grant Sigarin. Why? Because he's an athlete. He's a certified athlete. This is the dude that was a tight end, defensive end. He was also a track and field participant. He qualified for regionals as a junior in high school in the shot put. He averaged 10.8 points a game in basketball with 8.5 rebounds. And he just started playing offensive lineman at Nebraska. So his ascension is still ongoing, which is why he's only like 270 pounds, 6'6", 270 pounds. But we're getting guys that are essentially rare, that we don't know a lot about, that nobody else in the country does either. And I think at the end of the day, that might actually end up being a good thing. I think this offensive line is definitely an upgrade. You have guys that have years of starting experience at the Power 4 level, at the Division I level, and multiple other schools that are now going to be able to bring that to this 3 new O-line crew. The technical aspects are going to increase tremendously. And there's not going to be any complacency because a lot of these dudes are here to extend their careers. Like Bob Schick, he's looking to take this year at Oklahoma State and transcend that into an NFL draft spot. So there's not going to be any complacency. There's not going to be any laziness. There's not going to be any, well, I know I can show up late to meetings and still start. None of that is going to happen this season. Because of the O-line crew and because of the guys they brought in, I expect the competition level to increase as well, which is why I'm excited. All right, before we skedaddle on off of here, you're seeing a lot of these top 150, top 300, top 100 lists start to kind of get put together. And thankfully, Locked On is doing their own version where they're launching their top 300 as well. And you have to put in submissions, of course, on some of the individuals that you think should be part of this top 150, top 300 conversation. And naturally, for the top 300, you can equal or enter a lot of individuals. But I wanted to ask all of you out here, especially the regulators, a.k.a. the regulars, who do you think at Oklahoma State could potentially crack the top 50 best players in the country entering the season? I think that Io Showed My King should be on the list, but he hasn't really played, so I don't know that it would make sense for him to be on this list. Haas Haney and Josh Hoover is definitely going to be on the top 100, top 50-ish conversation, right? So the fact that Haas Haney has faster than Des Bryant speed, but was so good as a true freshman that they had to find ways to get him on the field during Josh Hoover's pretty remarkable season, I think that speaks volumes. So perhaps he could be here. How about Zaquan Patterson? Zaquan Patterson started, 6-7 games as a freshman at Miami. And then a lot of the coaches come out and said, or he appeared in 7 games, that he is the hardest hitting complete tackler for all freshmen in America. That's high praise coming from the likes of the Miami head coach. So I think that's a potential option here. I think when you go a little bit deeper than that, could you throw Bob Schick on here coming over from Virginia Tech? It's a potential possibility. How about Jalen Davies? Jalen Davies likely would have been on this top 75-ish conversation if he would have stayed at UCLA. So why would that conversational piece not still exist here? Brian McCoy. Brian McCoy was a 5th-round draft grade coming out of Akron. So perhaps he might need to be on this list. But this is where we get in the participation section. This is where I want y'all's help. Let me know down in the comment section for all you fine folks out there on YouTube. What are some of the guys that you think should be on the top 150 list for Oklahoma State? Who could be the representation for the Cowboys there? Iman Oates could be a potential conversational piece. Could Cam Smith crack this list? Does Oklahoma State's Rodney Fields, does he crack this list? He put up over 200 yards of all-purpose this previous season, 198-ish rushing, if I recall correctly. He also chipped in like another 20, 30 receiving. Didn't get to see a lot of time, but the glimpses that we did see were pretty special. How about Trent Howland? 2 years ago, Trent Howland was the leading rusher for Indiana. Everybody saw what Indiana turned into this previous season. He's going to be the Thunder package at Oklahoma State. Does that mean he's in this top 150 conversation? Let me know down in the comment section. Christian Fitzpatrick coming over from Marshall. Could he be in this conversation? Trip White. He started some games at Ole Miss. Could he be in this? J.K. Johnson was a dude who played in 5 games as a true freshman at Ohio State. Then he had some injuries. And then LSU, he had some remarkable moments. And then he had some more injuries. Could he be on this list? Let me know down in the comment section what you think. What Cowboys should either actually physically, tangibly be on this list, or theoretically by the end of the season, who do you think would be on this list, right? We'll do it both sides. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one right here. As always, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State, because you could be anywhere, so happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike it if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you are everything that makes this work. Appreciate you. Do what you do. Go hit the stars and leave some reviews. All right, y'all. Later, taters.